All right, well, let's then kickstart the money show. And today for the topic that we have at hand, and that's tax saving investments, which you must make before the 31st of March 2020. I have with me Surabhi Marwah, partner for People Advisory Services and Private Client Services with EY India. Surabhi, thank you so much for joining us on the Money Show. Many a times individuals tend to leave all the tax planning decisions to literally the last 2 weeks of March, and then they'll hurriedly just simply deposit off and use off the entire 1,50,000 or how much ever money they have left, put it off in a public provident fund. But I suppose we're doing this discussion a bit earlier because we do not want people to make these last minute decisions in a hurried manner, because if done wisely, they can actually become great wealth creation tools as well, along with being, of course, tax efficient. So, Surabhi, that's the reason we've brought you on board. And of course, we'll answer viewer queries as well. Thanks so much for joining us. And yeah, how important is it, Surabhi, that individuals give enough time to their tax planning, process? Because like I said, now we just have about 2 months left. So should they start right away, or is it okay to wait maybe a month later? What is your advice?
Thank you so much for having me on the show, Mubina. I think you've got it bang on, and it's good that we're having this discussion right at the beginning or the end of January rather than the last 2 weeks of March. I think in most cases, it is possible that the ATC benefit or the 1.5 lakhs you spoke about is exhausted by an individual's provident fund. But if it is not, and the incentive is to invest because you still have that balance left, then you're right, there are a large number of other potential opportunities. While I'm not a wealth advisor, but I think from a tax perspective, one of the most lucrative ones is the National Pension Scheme. Now, this is linked to the market. And not only does it give you that, investment in the 1.5 lakhs, the beauty of NPS is that under Section 80 CCD, you can get another additional deduction of 50,000 rupees if you are for the employee contribution in the NPS. So actually, it's not 1.5, but with NPS, it can move to 2 lakhs. Now, within the 1.5 itself, you have a couple of very good investment options. You have the ULIP, you have the ELSS, you have, you have the NSCs. All of these are again linked to the market and therefore can give you market-linked returns, but also help save your tax to the extent that you get these deductions. So for those of you who haven't done the NPS, very important to note, it's not 1.5, but 2 lakhs that you can aim at. Apart from ATC and the 1.5, there are other things that an individual must know. There are deductions available for medical insurance, and the amount can go up to, from 25,000 to double that amount or even more than that, depending upon who you're paying the premium for yourself, your family, or for your parents who could be senior citizens. So for all of us who have taken private medical insurances, please make sure that you claim that ATD benefit and, give that proof to your employer in time as well. So these are some of the important things, and it's good to plan now because you have enough time, therefore, to evaluate the market, think through what gives you the best results, and also lodge those proofs to your employer well in time so that you're getting you're getting the double benefit of both returns and the tax savings.
Okay, all right. Well, as we know, Surabhi, ATC doesn't only comprise of investments, but it also has certain expenses. And many a times, I suppose, we're exhausting off our ATC limits, which is unfortunately still at that 1.5 or of course 2 lakh level. It's not budged from there. But the minute you make those 12 EMIs and you consider the principal, I suppose many people will be exhausting off their 1.5 lakh limit in that money itself.
Absolutely.
But apart from expensive, if we have to sort of judge from best to worst in terms of ATC investments, what would be on the top of your list?
Like I said, I would go in for NPS as my top, which is 150 plus 50. I think ELSS, personally for me, ELSS, ULIP, those are good tax savings investments as well. So I think those would be the top three on my list. I still, Mubina, you talked about PPF. For me, I would still think PPF is a good one because you have tax-free withdrawals from PPF and a good and very attractive rate of interest as well. So I think they are safer and they have a good rate of interest and they help you with the tax as well. So like I said, a double benefit.
All right. And yeah, mercifully, the government has not, tinkered with the small savings scheme interest rates as well. So that's a good thing. But Surabhi, just to sort of to enable all our viewers to jog their memory, like I said, they've made a lot of payments throughout the 12 months of this fiscal year, right? From April to January, and yes, of course, 2 months more. So if you could just help them with what are these expenses that they would actually get a tax deduction on, which they may not even be knowing about.
So I think the top ones out of these are, the children, school fees for children. That's the top one. The other very big one that you spoke about was EMI payments. So, that is another very big expense. So if you've taken a home loan, then the principal part of that gets clubbed into this 1.5 lakh limit. And the interest part of that comes into, your home loan deduction, which is section 24, which is another 2 lakh rupees. So, that is a big expense that will save you tax not only for 1.5 but another 2 lakhs as well. I think in terms of expenses, two of these are the very important ones that you could look at, where you have to compulsorily sort of make these these expenses, but you're also saving tax on them.
Okay, all right, fair enough. Expanding away from that horizon of ATC, Chapter 6A is huge actually. Of course, the most commonly used investment / expenses are in ATC. So, Surabhi, what are the other, avenues available for an individual to save taxes on?
I think one I touched upon, Mubina, section 80D, which is, the medical insurance. So I think in today's world, most of us, even if we are covered by employer schemes, we do end up taking private medical insurance. The 80D benefit is available to you, to your family, and to your senior citizen parents. So it can be a good amount, starting from, I think, 25,000 to double or triple that amount. So that's an important one to keep in mind. If you are making donations, then 80G, or you can get deductions for donations as well. Couple of new things that the government introduced last year were on, a loan taken for an electric vehicle. So that is also allowed as a deduction. 1.5 lakhs is the limit for that. So, just to boost people going in for electric vehicles. So that's an important one, especially if you're looking to buy one and you're looking to take a loan on it. Apart from the housing that goes under ATC, there's also two more benefits under housing. It's, I think, ATEE and ATEEA. Those are linked to housing loans taken for first-time home buyers, and there are certain conditions against those. The loan has to be sanctioned within a certain period, and the value of the loan and the house has to be within certain limits laid out. But important deductions to note, because for first-time buyers of houses, these are again savings opportunities while you're actually building your own home. So some of these are very, very important ones that you should know apart from the ATC. For housing, like I said earlier, there is a 2 lakh rupee benefit if you are paying interest on mortgage. Please keep that into mind, when you are looking to do your tax planning as well. So these are the common ones. Apart from this, you would have something called ATGGA, which is for rental payments if you don't have a component called house rent allowance in your income. But 2 or 3 of those that I mentioned are the ones that I would think make most sense, because those are things that you do for a better life, or like for example medical, but they also help you with tax savings. So there is a benefit on both counts in these.
Okay. Surabhi, the other part of when you're making these tax-saving investments is the lock-in period, which many a times people are unaware of. Maybe they do know what it is for the PPF because it's a very common and popular investing instrument. But many a times they don't know the lock-in period for a lot of the other kind of instruments that are available. And they may think that, okay, the money is available when they want it, but it's when they go to withdraw it that then they face a problem. So if you could just tell our viewers which of the tax-saving investments actually do have a lock-in period which you have to adhere to.
I think very important to look at the fine print on each of your investments, but especially on things that are market linked. For example, ULIP could have a lock-in period, ELSS could have a lock-in period. So some pension plans could have a lock-in period. For instance, I talked about NPS, but withdrawal from NPS is not entirely tax-free. There is a 60% withdrawal that you can do tax-free, and 40% you have to purchase annuities. So all of these, which are typically market linked, will have some sort of lock-in period or some sort of conditions as to withdrawal. Now, the conditions could work to your benefit because you could end up getting tax benefit even at the time of withdrawal. But yes, there could be a lock-in in terms of, when you can withdraw. So if your ultimate aim is that you need the money after a certain period of time, it's very important to look at these schemes. Even PF, you can withdraw 2 months after you leave employment. There are certain conditions attached to it as well. So pretty much look at the schemes, look at the finer print, and the 2 or 3 that I spoke about, which are attractive, they do have lock-in periods. So be very careful that if you are looking at, withdrawing money and using these funds immediately, then, maybe FDs and others could be a better, savings instrument.
All right, so fair enough. And just to sort of, wrap up this bit of the conversation before we take on board all of those questions from our viewers, there are certain compulsory investments that are already considered under Section 80C. And many a times investors don't know that, or individuals don't know that, and still over and above they make other investments, to comply with tax purposes. So Surabhi, if you could share some examples of what these kind could be.
I think the top one there would be Provident Fund, because especially if you're a salaried person, you are pretty much more than not, you are contributing to Provident Fund. And if your employee contribution is already exhausted that 1.5 lakhs, then investing over and above these 8 or 10 schemes that we spoke about, they're good if you still want to invest from a market or from a wealth creation perspective, but they're not going to augment the limit of 1.5 lakhs. So the advice I would give everyone is first look at how much is going in through your PF, because pretty much that is the compulsory one, or how much you're paying in terms of maybe, children's education fee, because these two coupled together, if they're already exhausting the 1.5 lakhs, then you're, then making investments is a matter of returns and not a matter of tax savings then.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, there you have it, folks. Please do not wait till the end of the financial year and kickstart your tax-saving investment process right away, because, yes, I know Aadhaar is there and it's going to perhaps make life easier, but still you need to properly do your due diligence, and I hope this interview has helped you out in making your investment decisions. The KYC procedure may be simple, but the decision-making process is not. So you need to give due time to your tax planning as well. On that note, we will kickstart our Ask the Money Show segment, where we open the phone lines for all of our viewers out there. If you have any questions or queries on tax saving instruments, on where you could as well invest in to save taxes, do call in. The number is 24990300, or you can email us on themoneyshow@etnow.tv. Let's take on board our very first question. Manohara has written into us saying, I have income from salaries, interest and an equity profit of 52,400 rupees and an FNO loss of 1,20,000 rupees. So firstly, he wants to know what tax form should he use. And I'm assuming that he wants to know this for fiscal year 2020. I think there's only Form 1 and Form 4 that's been notified yet. And he also wants to know if he must deposit a tax for the equity profit. Okay, now the other question, Surabhi, that comes along with the tax form bit is also the setting off of, losses against certain income. So he has this FNO loss of 1,20,000. Can he negate off his equity profit with this? He's not mentioned whether this is short-term or long-term capital gain. But yeah, what would you recommend? How would you recommend Manohara go about his filing of his taxes?
Okay. Thank you so much, Mubina. Mr. Hara, 2-3 things. One, your FNO loss can be set off against that equity income. That's one. Now, so you may end up with no income or a loss that you may need to carry forward, but you still need to file a tax return. As Mubina correctly pointed out, only 2 tax return forms for the fiscal year 1920 have been released as of now. But because you have a business loss, F&O will come under a business loss, or if it was a profit, it would come under a income from profits and gains. You would have to file something called a form ITR 3. Now, I'm calling it ITR 3 based on the forms that were released for the prior year. But if it all remains the same, then the correct form to use is ITR 3. Based on the numbers you gave us, it seems like you will have a loss to carry forward. But in case you did have equity profit, then couple other important things for you to note. Long-term capital gains, and I'm assuming since you said equity, it could be listed. So long-term capital gains from equity are exempt up to 100,000 rupees. And short-term capital gains from equity are taxed at 15% plus the applicable cess and surcharge. So these are important things to note. If after all of these you still turn out and have a profit, then you should definitely pay taxes. You should pay your advance taxes as per the schedule laid out. The next installment is 15th of March. Again, advance taxes are need to be paid if your entire liability less any TDS is more than 10,000 rupees. I'm assuming you're not a senior citizen. Senior citizens are not required to pay advance tax. So to sum it all up, ITR 3 should be the form because you have F&O income. You should be able to set off. You should see what are the limits available for short-term and capital gains, short-term and long-term, gain and loss from equity. And you should wait for the right form to come in for the financial year 1920 before you do any sort of filing. Our due date is 31st of July, so you have enough time for that. But if you have a taxable gain that you need to pay, then 15th March should be the date you should be looking for, because that's the last date to pay your advance tax. Otherwise, you are going to have to pay interest and penalties if you pay it later. I hope I've answered your question.
Okay, all right. Yes, I suppose Marwah will be able to certainly gain a lot from this answer. We've got a live caller now, Hemant from Mumbai, joining us on the phone line. Hi, Hemant. Good evening. What's your query?
Hello.
Yes, Hemant. What's your question?
Thing is that regarding this tax, me and my son-in-law,
Yes.
he has been paying lakhs of rupees income tax. So I suggested him, you contact some person who is very much expert in this tax, this one. And just when I tune my TV, I am seeing that your program, some Surabhi madam, is there. That program is still going on ET Now channel.
Sure.
Regarding tax saving. So where your office is located? If I come there and...
Sir, what you can do is you can actually discuss, ask us your question right here and we can help you out.
Oh, madam, speaking on the telephone is very difficult.
Well, what we can suggest,
time will go.
Hemantji, what we can suggest you can do is you can sit with your son-in-law and write down your question via email. We have an email address as well, themoneyshow@etnow.tv. It's appearing on the top of your screen. So you could always write into us. We'll patiently read it and get it answered. If it's too long a question to get answered on the phone, we'll wait for your email. But in the meanwhile, let me move on to our next caller. We have Ravikant Sharma joining us on the phone line from Ludhiana. Ravikant, thank you for calling in. What's your query?
Yeah, hi, good evening. Exactly, query was like that for KVP, can you hear me?
Yes, go ahead.
Yeah, in KVP exactly rate of interest been mentioned, I think 7.6 if I am not wrong, and the maturity period was 2 years 6 months. So can you just clarify the doubt whether it is 2 years 6 months or 8 years 6 months?
This is the Kisan Vikas Patra, is that right?
Correct, because
Yes.
the flashing details was showing the maturity period is 2 years 6 months, so it was quite skeptical from my side. Can you
Okay, we'll just check that. Surabhi, this Kisan Vikas Patra is of course relatively again a newer investment instrument. But yeah, could you share some details for our our gentleman calling in, and of course for any other investors as well who may be interested in the product?
Yeah, I think, Mr. Sharma, the maturity period and the, rate of interest is written in the fine print when you buy and when you invest. So my suggestion to you would be, depending upon the period of investment, etc., before you invest, just read the fine print, because it could be market linked and change. So my suggestion would be just read that once and then, look at whether it's 2 years, 6 months or a slightly longer period. Important to check it when you're investing at that point in time.
I would also like to add in over there, Mr. Sharma, that many a times the government as well is constantly coming out with notifications changing the fine print of instruments like the Kisan Vikas Patra. You may be knowing that every quarter as well they change the interest rates for things like PPF, the the senior citizens saving scheme, etc., etc. So the KVP as well is one of those products. I can tell you one thing, that if you will invest in the KVP, I know for a fact that it will double your one-time investment. It'll take about 9 years and 10 months. Of course, lock-in period will be different. It will, differ from time to time. But yes, on that note, it's all the time we
Mubina,
have.
Yeah.
Sure, go ahead.
Sorry, Mubina, I think. Sorry, I just said to Mr. Sharma, it's very important when you're investing to read the fine print. Then just echoing what you also said, Mubina, because what we say today could change after the government notifies something new. So very important to do it at that time.
Sure, exactly, yes. Okay, well, on that note, Surabhi, thanks so much then for helping out all our viewers with their questions and queries. And let's hope that they use this interview to kickstart their tax planning process as well. Thank you so much for joining in. We will take a very short break right here on The Money Show, folks. But when we return, we are going to be talking about the HSBC Large Cap Fund. We'll be meeting the fund manager, Mr. Tushar Pradhan, to talk about the nitty-gritties of the fund. It's been a great performer, so we will talk about what is his wealth creation mantra, and it will hopefully help you take a decision on whether you should put your money in the fund.